finally coming around to another mainline sequel. Technically, the last real one was 10-2. I was all the way on the PS2. They don't exactly make mainline sequels very much. That's not really a thing they do. Except for this era, when they just needed to milk everything they could. 10-2 was made only after polling the fans and asking them if they wanted it. 13-2, that was pretty much decided they were going to do it. They needed to reuse the assets, get another product out, to get more money with less effort. That's kind of the point of these. And now we have 13-2, which goes for this off-the-wall time travel story that we're gonna get into. Also, did 13 even need a sequel just from its story point of view? Like, that game ends quite nicely. 13-2, I was interested in because it doesn't just completely change it all. The time travel story is weird and out of nowhere, but the main character is Sarah, who we didn't get a lot of focus on, obviously, because she was kind of the MacGuffin of the first game. Now, 10-2 completely revamped the battle systems, entirely new gameplay in 10-2, but 13-2 just kind of takes the same combat of the first game and does change a couple things, but it's more or less the same idea. I think what they wanted to do was change the things people didn't like about 13. We'll get all into it. Starters, the PC port. It's crappy again. They just didn't seem to care when porting the 13 games to Steam. This game actually is known to run worse than the original 13. But the same guy who made the fix mod for the first game made a fix mod for this one. So it actually went pretty well. I had one crash the whole experience, so I call that a success. Before we really get into it, if you remember the 13 video, we had to cover a big lore dump of a book beforehand. Well, check this out. Final Fantasy XIII-2, Fragments Before. This book is marketed as a bridge between 13 and 13-2, connecting the stories. It doesn't really connect the stories. It just kind of is a prequel to 13-2. That first game still ends the same way, except for that little bit we covered in 13 episode 1, if you remember at the end of that video. 13 had this little addendum that was like, oh, actually Lightning went off into this nothing universe and disappeared. What happened to her? Ooh, and they retroactively put a cliffhanger into the story. Chapter 1 of Fragments Before is almost a word-for-word retelling of episode 1. Lightning sees Sarah and Snow. She gives them their blessing, everybody's happy, and then she just kind of walks off and disappears, and we don't know what happened. So one of the first thing this book does is gaslights you about the ending of 13, if you missed episode 1. In this little character biography section, when you look at Lightning, it goes like, she's Sarah's older sister. It's said that when Cocoon fell, she, Vanille, and Fang became the crystal pillar that now supports Cocoon. What? That's not what happened. It was just Vanille and Fang. But when we revisit all these characters in New Bodom, everyone's like, yeah, Lightning's in the crystal. What are you talking about? And Sarah is the only one who has these faded memories of Lightning being there with everybody else. Like the player, we're like, what the heck is going on? She was there and then she wasn't, and now everyone's saying she's in the crystal tower. Immediately there's some weird sci-fi stuff happening. Aside from that, it's just kind of going into the life of these people living on Grand Pulse now that Cocoon's gone and the Fal'Cie have kind of went away because they kind of failed their mission and they don't really need to be involved with humans anymore. Sarah's a teacher. She helps out the kids. There's a whole scene with her fighting. She can use magic, even though I thought Lassie can only use magic. There's this new retcon where anybody can use magic now. That's really for gameplay purposes, but you know. And every now and then when Sarah goes to bed, she hears Lightning in her thoughts, in her dreams. Lightning's almost trying to contact her, talk to her. So she's like, are my memories fake? Am I hearing voices? Have I actually gone insane because everybody thinks I'm insane? What she does is she convinces Snow to go off and try to find Lightning. Because she's like, she is not in that tower. Snow, future husband, you gotta go. And Snow's like, I'll do anything to make Sarah happy. So, you know, he goes off. And there's a little chapter on his adventure. He befriends a cactuar. You know, the classic character. And the cactuar befriends him and they go on a little adventure together. They partner up. He's got a little cactuar assistant now. New character, Cactuar. This cactuar saves Snow's life by doing a massive, like, groundbreaking attack that involves like a crest in the sky and basically confirms that this cactuar is actually a fal'Cie. Snow gets a little scared. There's a scene where he almost gets branded as a l'Cie by this cactuar, but then they have this understanding. And also fal'Cie have stopped doing the l'Cie thing. They've given up on that. So him and this cactuar, Snow learns that like maybe fal'Cie can't all be bad guys. Like this guy's helping me out. He was gonna brand me, but then he didn't. So he's a good guy. The next chapter focuses on Bart Estheim, aka Hope's dad from the first game. This was a boring chapter, man. It was essentially a recap of 13. It's him, because the humans are now figuring out what to do, because they were run by fal'Cie. So now they're like trying to figure out the whole government thing. So Hope's dad is going to be at like the forefront of that. And he's having a meeting with Rigdia, which is one of like Sid's buddy back in the day. And they're going through like security camera footage that is basically showing all the events of 13. This is when remember when they arrived on the racetrack and they raced all the cars and fought people, and then the town was blowing up and they were making their way through. Remember that? Remember this? Remember that? Like, yeah, I remember. I played the game. The whole chapter was pointless. And then we get to the final chapter, which focuses on a whole new set of characters. A grandma and a boy talking with each other. The grandma's sick. She's close to the end. And the boy is a little boy with a couple other friends in this kind of wasteland. Like, where are we? When are we? They talk about how the world lost its color when Cocoon fell, but Cocoon didn't fall. Unless the answer to when are we? We're about 700 years in the future. 700 AF. That is after fall. The first fall, when Cocoon fell and was saved by the crystal. That's how time is measured now. We're starting basically the game at like 1 AF. Yeah, man, something bad happened. Cocoon fell. And it basically wasted like almost all of humanity. But the people who remained had to live with like the toxic materials that came from Cocoon and the poison in the air from like the crystal and everything. Humans are dying out in the time we're currently in with the grandma and the boy. He talks with the kids like, why the heck did they build society under Cocoon? That was a stupid idea. And I'm like, I'm reading the book like that is kind of a stupid idea. Why do they do that? We jump around a little bit. It gets to the end of the book where this boy is the last one. His friends die. Grandma's gone. He's going on a quest to find a girl that he knew. She's probably gone. He might be literally the last human on Earth. He's hoping for a miracle. He's hoping the goddess Etro opens the gate for him. And she does. He sees a blinding light and goes through it as he's like bleeding out, almost dying. And that's where the book ends. This man's name is Noel Kreis, and he shares the spotlight as main character with Sarah of Final Fantasy XIII-2. So there's your summation of Fragments Before. It's less complicated than the 13 book because 13 book is like your introduction to everything. This book is just like, remember the characters, here's what they're doing now. And also a teaser for what's to come with Noel's little story there. He is like the last human who's gone back in time. But more on that story stuff later. I think we should start by talking about what's new in the game. So, what's the one thing everybody calls Final Fantasy XIII? Linear. Too linear. Does 13.2 change this? Yeah, it kinda does. There is instantly so much more freedom in 13.2. You open your map of any area in this game and there's not like a million different directions. It's not an open world game. There are areas that you go to, and these are like time periods basically. So there's the opening menu where you can choose the place you want to go, and then when you go in there, it's like a tiny Grand Pulse kind of area. Remember the open world part of 13 where there was like a direction that you should go, but there was also extra stuff? Now every area in this game is like that. So I think a huge improvement there. And there's no waiting around. There's no being forced to do one direction of things. Side content is a major focus in this game. It really seems like they were listening to the big feedback that they got. I would say this game's about as open as any average other Final Fantasy game before 13. There's a jump button. There are towns. Like, you can go in a town and there are people walking around. Like, what a concept. You can talk to people. Some of the people have side quests. Like, I didn't discredit 13 too harshly for that, but after playing this, it's like, yeah, why wasn't that in 13? That is kind of a shocker. There are secret bosses. There are items to collect. Some of the items are like off of the map and you have to throw your little Moogle guy to go get him. Yes, you have a little Moogle assistant and he transforms into a bow and arrow, which is Sarah's weapon in this game. We'll explain that later. And once you're done with this first area, once time travel gets introduced, as soon as you jump through that gate, the rest of the game is hopping gate to gate to gate to gate, different areas, different eras, future, past, whatever. You can visit the same area in a different timeline and correct it to go to a new timeline and break off and branch off into other extra timelines like side areas. It's all over the place, man. It's way different in that way from 13. The first impressions here are really great. Like, I enjoyed 13. I'm one of the guys who liked it quite a bit. But playing this, it's like, oh man, going back to 13 is gonna be rough. There's even some interactability with cutscenes. There's like dialogue options in this. You'll be asked something and the game will be like, okay, what do you want to say in response to this? There'll be 4 options like a Telltale game. Now this doesn't change anything. This isn't branching you off into different storylines or anything like that. But it's just it's just a little form of interactability. Like, you can ask the thing that you want to ask. Sometimes there's a joke answer that you can just say to see what happens. Like, it's fun. It's just a fun thing. They threw it in there, why not? Sometimes there actually is an incorrect answer though. There was like a boss that you had to figure out how to beat, and it'll ask you, how do you want to do this? And if you say the wrong thing, you have to like refight the boss. That was actually annoying. There's also QTEs. There's quick time events. During important cutscenes and during boss fights, like towards the end when you're about to beat them, the team will come together and do this quick time event thing where you gotta like, oh, click right because he's moving right. Oh, she's charging the bow. Oh, press the B button. Boom. And, you know, it's cool too. I don't know what happens if you fail those. I think I perfected all of them because, you know, it's pretty easy to press a button when they tell you to. So that's like all the overworld changes. Every area is a little bit of a grand pulse. Chapter 11, piece of 13. But there are people, there are side quests, there's actual stuff to do besides walk around and fight monsters that you could in that one chapter of 13. What about the combat? Well, it's more or less the same. Paradigm shifting is still the main core concept of the combat. Your 6 roles are still there. Commando, Ravager, Synergist, Saboteur, Sentinel, and Medic. Though they don't all have the same abilities, the idea of switching to the right one at the right time is still the main thing that you're going to be doing. But you can tune your custom paradigms now, basically to tell the AI what attacks to use within their role. So like if you're going to be fighting large groups of enemies, you tune a paradigm to be like a wide paradigm, so they'll use more AoE attacks to hit more enemies. It's just a way for you to tweak the AI a little bit more to be better at fighting, so that's a good thing. Here's a big one. You can now change leaders mid-battle. Remember how you couldn't do that in 13, and if you died, the game's over? Yeah, that was really annoying. Oh my gosh, this is a great change. If you die as Sarah, it changes you to Noel, and vice versa. But if both of them die, it's over. I mean, that makes sense. But geez, in 13, it was like, oh, my tank's alive, because that's his job, is to kind of take the hits, but for some reason, the enemy decided to hit me in the face and kill me in one hit, and game's over. There's one enemy ability that might change the flow of combat a little bit. The concept of wound is basically attacks that lower your max HP. They don't hit you, they just lower your health bar. And you can't fix that with a roll. There's no medic ability that increases your max HP. It just heals you, and if your max HP goes all the way down to like 10, healing doesn't matter. There are bosses that their concept is basically they're going to keep wounding you, and you're essentially on a time limit. Like, you just got to beat them fast. Healing's not helping here. So that's just a little thing that changes some of the battles up. That's cool. It was a nice thing. The final combat change is related to preemptive strikes. If you remember 13, it was a straight line, so enemies weren't random, they were just placed, and you had to fight them head on. You could try dodging them, you could try sneaking up on them, and that'll give you a bonus in the fight. But in this game, we're back to random encounters. But it's not just a simple walk and then boom, all of a sudden you're in a battle. An enemy will appear out of thin air, and you can get away if you want to. If you don't want to fight, that's the beauty of it. You can just run most of the time. But if you're gonna fight, you have a chance to use your sword and swipe the guy to start the battle in your favor. But the cool thing is, if you do hit them, in addition to the stagger boost that you got in 13, you now start a match with haste on all your characters. That's wonderful, I love that. So geez man, all of these changes are just wonderful. I'm loving all of them. But alright, I gotta be honest, I've been burying the lead a little bit here. You might be wondering, who else is in your party besides Noel and Sarah? The answer is nobody. Well, unless you've been looking at the footage that I've been showing you in the video, you might be seeing that I have a little monster friend on my team. Yeah, there are 3 slots. There are no other party members, there are no other characters. That important 3rd character slot that you need for 13 combat is taken by a monster. You collect them in this game. There is a monster collecting and raising element in 13.2, and it's pretty important. So, any monster you fight in this game could potentially be collected, and every monster has one of the 6 job roles that I mentioned earlier. Each monster also has a feral link ability that just charges during battle and can be used for free damage, buffs, something like that, depends on the monster. Plus they all have different stats, different natures, different growth levels. I won't bore you with that stuff. Spoiler alert, I wasn't very into this whole thing myself. You can build a monster pack of 3 different guys. The idea here is to cover more job types. So for example, switching a paradigm could swap your Ravager monster with your Medic monster, but they pretty much share the exact same health bar, so if it dies, all 3 monsters are considered dead. Basically, they all act as one human player switching roles. It was just a little too much for me. I enjoy the combat of 13, and now you add this complex element to it that I didn't want to bother with. I really don't care about raising things in games, unless the whole game is about that, like Pokemon, or it's a fun totally side element like the Chow Garden or something. But I've never even raised chocobos in any of these games that I've talked about. I was like, oh, that sounds, ugh, don't need to raise chocobos. Now it's like forcing me to do it because this is literally my 3rd character in the game. I need to have a good 3rd character or else my team will be bad. So I need to actually do this. And it involves a lot of grinding and luck. And I don't really like that. It just clashes with what I'm trying to do in this game. Like, it doesn't feel ingrained, it just feels like an additional thing that you just now have to do. I would rather just have a 3rd normal character, man. You might remember a certain other mainline Final Fantasy sequel that asked you to collect monsters. Yeah, a similar system was in 10.2. The difference? That game had 3 main characters that you could just use the whole way through, and the monster element was completely optional. And guess what? I didn't bother with it at all because I didn't want to. And that game was great. Unfortunately, it's very much a requirement in 13.2. You also have to regularly replace your monsters to keep up. The ones you get in the early game areas, they'll just be objectively bad. Like, just like in any RPG, the monsters get tougher as you go, right? So they're going to be better than the first game areas. You can't just get a Pidgey in the first area and level him up to a Pidgeot. Doesn't work like that. He basically stays a Pidgey the whole game. You have to replace him with a better Pokemon. And to make it just a little more annoying, monsters don't level up the same way that humans do. They level up with consumable items that you have to just find or buy with Gil. And that sucks. So yeah, the Crystarium is back with some changes too. Instead of having split upgrade trees for each role, there is now one singular straight line that is used for all of the roles at the same time. That's right, they made it more linear. Sarah and Noel spend Cristogen points just like the last game, but monsters, as I just stated, level up with these special items. What makes this so annoying is that you can spend almost all of these on one monster and then not have enough for the others, and then they're just under-leveled. You have to actively split up your resources accordingly, and when you level up and finish a tree, you get upgraded to a new tier of monster, which requires more rare and more expensive items. Different kinds. So if you have a whole bunch of items and you're ready to upgrade it, you go to the new tier and you don't have the correct items for this tier. And certain enemies will require organic materials and some will require inorganic materials. So you have to manage all this stuff, and it was really just a nuisance for me. So around halfway through the game, I decided to just stick with my mid-game level monsters for like the rest of my time. And you know what? They were weak as hell compared to Sarah and Noel. I guess I did it wrong. Whatever, this system didn't work for me. It's your fault, not mine. On the Sarah and Noel side of things, you use CP to advance one node on the Crystarium, but you just choose which role you're leveling up at the moment. Each role level brings you closer to its next ability and will give you a stat boost based on that role. So Commando leveling will give you a boost in Strength, Ravager leveling will give you Magic, Medic, and Sentinel HP. That's basically how it goes. This honestly is not very well explained to the player, in my opinion. And I don't think it said that the bigger nodes are worth more. I mean, I guess you can infer that because they're bigger, but they just don't explicitly tell you. Here's the thing about this upgrading system. I only found out about halfway through that I was kind of doing it incorrectly. And I have a problem with this because why am I able to do it incorrectly? I thought the point of a character growth system was that you had the freedom to do what you wanted. I found out after looking up a guide, trying to figure out why I was so weak. People were like, no, there is a perfect way to do this. Here's how you do it. If you want to be strong, you do it this way. Otherwise, you're just going to be weak. There is like a definitive way to do it. What the hell is the point then? The key is to make use of every single big node. Every big node for Noel should be upgraded with Commando. Every big node for Sarah should be upgraded with Ravager. If you max them out as early as possible and always take the bonus boost for those respective roles upon completing a tree, that is the most efficient way to do it and the best and the most powerful. There's no better way. If you do it differently, it's not like you're boosted in other areas, you're just gonna be weaker, period. Because like, you can spend all the big nodes on Medic, what's that gonna get you? You're gonna heal better? You'll be weak though. So battles will be worse, they'll be harder for you. So this really is the best way to do it. I just so disagree with that, with the way that's made. With the design of that whole thing is weird to me. Like, this is not how character growth systems should be made. I was struggling with the game until the internet told me, oh no, you have to do it this way. And then I started just doing better because I did that way. I don't know, man, the Crystarium in 13 was fine. Like, it wasn't the most exciting thing in the world. It was still pretty linear and basic, but like, it got the job done. This, I don't know, this tried something. It tried something. Like, 13 definitely wanted characters to stay in certain roles. Like, for a good chunk of the game, you're locked to those roles until you unlock the ability to expand more. But that's the thing. They give you the option to expand more. Case in point, my boy Saz. I was so happy with Saz because he was a great synergist, but the one thing missing from my team was a Sentinel. So I made Saz a Sentinel. It's not recommended, but it does work. In this game, I tried leveling Noel as Sentinel because I needed one of those too, and I didn't want a monster beast Sentinel. I was like, whatever, Noel can do it, I guess. And he just died. Like, he was weaker because I wasn't upgrading Commando enough, and he wasn't a good Sentinel. So I don't understand the point. And this brings me to my final gameplay topic, the roles. Upon first glance, they're the same as they were in 13. But upon playing the game a little bit more, a lot of the roles are just a lot worse. Like, they're just totally nerfed. And this is another reason why leveling Commando and Ravager for Noel and Sarah respectively are the way to go, because the other roles will not benefit you as much. Just period, they just won't. Power leveling Ravager and Commando to 99 as early as you can is the perfect build for a reason, because those are the ones that are useful. You need the Commando and Ravager for damaging and stagger boosting. And then you need a medic to heal, of course you do need a medic. But the other roles, the other three, half of the roles in the game, you legitimately don't need them. There are a couple of boss fights where there's like a gimmick where you kind of need a Sentinel to take a hit, otherwise you die. But otherwise, like especially Synergist and Saboteur, they are nerfed. They are destroyed. What happened to these roles? If you don't remember, Synergist was your buffer role and Saboteur was your debuffer role, respectively. They were required in 13. That's why Saz was my boy. Start every battle with haste and then keep that going through the whole fight. Buff my attack while you're there. Buff my defense while you're there. Boost magic. Infuse my weapons with elemental ability that will partially affect the enemy better. Like, yeah, just keep buffing me. Keep buffing me. Synergist was so awesome. You can't do like half of that in this game. You cannot cast haste in this game. They just removed it. You can't cast haste. You can get haste through like other random abilities like the preemptive strike. But that's only once at the beginning of a wild battle. You don't get it in a boss fight or anything. Damage buffing abilities like the one that boosts strength and the one that boosts magic aren't unlocked for Noel or Sarah's Synergist. They are locked behind certain specific monsters that I didn't find on my playthrough. Saboteur just does not seem to work on bosses at all. It's more for removing buffs from bosses, which only works sometimes anyway. It doesn't do the debuff thing where like you can start a battle by lowering its defense so you hit harder, right? You just can't do that stuff anymore. It just doesn't work. It just doesn't work anymore. They totally nerfed these abilities. And that makes me so sad. So Saboteur is like useless. Synergist, you can do shell and protect, which is good, but that's it. That's all you get out of it. What the hell happened with that? What did you guys do? This was my most baffling thing. Like the monster thing, I didn't personally enjoy it. That's my opinion, but what is up with the nerfs in the roles? I need somebody to explain to me why like the roles are better in this game than 13, because I just don't see it at all. They're all just nerfed, except for Commando and Ravager, which actually they don't even have all of the abilities that you got in 13. So, I don't know, that just makes combat so much less exciting than it was in 13. There's just so much less to do. In 13, yes, most of the game you're pressing auto battle, just doing what you're doing, and your activity is mostly paradigm shifting. You did have to use abilities occasionally in 13, but in this game, I almost never had to not press auto battle. It was just pressing it, shift to medic. I don't even need to shift that much anymore, because why would I need to? Commando and Ravager are the thing. I just need to switch to heal, pretty much. Otherwise, back to attacking. Whatever their plan was with nerfing these roles, it just made the game less exciting. So I don't agree with that at all. This really just feels like 13's combat, but worse, like less fun. And also you have to deal with the annoying monster stuff. Like you have to catch the right monster, you have to grind this area because this area has the best monster. I hate that. I don't want to do that. But hey, look, little harsh in the past like 15 minutes. It was still good. I don't think it's as good as 13. It was still good. I had a fun time. I also liked the story. So let's curve this back up. Let's get back to good stuff. The story I found to be very fun. Let's go over it. Pay attention now, because we know it's a time travel story. It's gonna get a little wacky. Here we go. From Fragments Before, this ended in the year 700 something, where Noel was the last guy alive. He jumps into the light that Etro set for him, guiding him somewhere. Where did he go? He went to Valhalla, which is where Lightning is. Lightning, after falling away from where she was at the end of 13, ends up in Valhalla as a knight of Etro. She is there as a defender of that goddess, and Valhalla is a place where time doesn't really exist. Lightning is acting now on a plane above human. So it turns out it was Lightning who brought Noel from the future. She kind of sees all of time now, so she entrusts Noel with a mission to kind of save the world and guide Sarah to where she needs to be for that as well. Now, Sarah just wants to know where the heck Lightning is, and if she's not crazy because everyone's telling her Lightning died, and she's like, no, that's not what happened. So Noel's gonna go back, find Sarah, and then they're gonna go on this big adventure. By the way, Noel is played by James Marsden, aka Max Goof.
Yes, I knew it. I knew you weren't from this world. I'm the last of humanity.
Hey!
Sarah.
So Noel obviously has plans to potentially save humanity, as he is the last human and doesn't want that future to happen. Sarah just wants to know where the heck Lightning is and to confirm that she's not crazy. So she happily joins him on this quest. And you jump through time. Like I said before, you jump through all the different gates, the different portals, different timelines. One of the first timelines you jump to is 14 AF. Again, AF is after the fall of Cocoon in the end of 13. So you jump just a couple of years in the future and you find Hope, a little bit grown up. By the way, I didn't mention this last video. Hope's a guy too. Hope's, he's Phineas from Phineas and Ferb.
To be honest, I didn't really believe that time travel was possible. But here you are.
He's also hanging out with a nice little researcher friend named Alyssa, who's working close with him. I don't know, they kind of seem like they might be a thing. You encounter some ruins that people tell you they were destroyed by the Farseer Yule. Who is this? Is she a threat? I don't know. More on that later. And eventually you encounter a timeline where you are fighting a giant blob, a giant flan. They're actually pronounced flan in this. Big old flan who actually is a legitimate problem for the timeline because he plays a role in eroding Cocoon, or eroding the crystal tower currently holding up Cocoon, the crystal tower where Fang and Vanille are resting. And this is where you encounter Snow. Last time we saw Snow, he just left to find Lightning. Turns out he found her. Or Lightning found him, really, kind of pulled him into Valhalla for a brief second, said, "This is your mission in all this. You gotta find out how to defeat this flan, because this flan is kind of what propels the falling of Cocoon that ends up wiping out humanity. So you gotta kill him." And Snow's like, "Whatever you say, Lightning. Whatever you say, as long as Sarah's safe, you know." There's a whole episode where you're helping him out doing that, and you eventually see a LaCie mark on his arm. What the heck, man? You're a LaCie again? What have you been up to? Snow is like, you can see his character is totally redesigned. He's just on like a different journey that you don't really hear about. I found this a little weird. Like, Snow is doing a different thing. He kills the flan, he disappears, he unwillingly is jumping through time for some reason, but it is assumed that Cactuar maybe made him a LaCie. You then encounter Caius. Caius is kind of your main villain of this game. Remember 13 didn't really have a main villain. It was just kind of the Fal'Cies in general. Fate was kind of the main villain. I mean, first glance at this guy, he looks pretty evil, and he has a history with Noel. Noel is not really opening up to you very much at this point in the story, so now that the flan's dealt with and Caius is running away somewhere else, you don't really know his motivation yet. You're like, okay, how do we really stop humanity from dying? Because Cocoon's still gonna fall. The flan just made it easier. So Hope's a smart guy. Let's go to the timeline with Hope. Boom! Hey, Hope, this isn't gonna be a problem for another like 700 years. Do you think you can get your research team and Alyssa and that whole crew figure out how to save Cocoon in 700 years? Do you think you can do that? Or at least start it? And he's literally just like, sure, yeah, I can spend my entire lifetime trying to save humanity. That sounds good to me. Ferb, I know what we're gonna do today. So we're like, great, Hope. Now that we planted that seed, let's go to the future. Jump 400 years in the future. Total dystopia. What? Hope, what did you do? What happened? Why is everything horrible? There's like Seath. Remember Seath? Those are LaCie who failed their focuses. They're basically like zombies. Why are there zombies everywhere? Why are people crying in the streets and dying and stuff? What happened? Well, basically, here was Hope's plan. He tried to invent a proto-Fal'Cie, because Cocoon was floating before via a Fal'Cie, whose whole goal was keeping it afloat, and we destroy that Fal'Cie at the end of 13. So Hope was just like, let's invent a Fal'Cie. Okay, not really the plan I would have gone with, but there it is. Basically, the proto-Fal'Cie goes insane, wants actual Fal'Cie powers, demands it, Hope doesn't give it to him, and he kills Hope. Hope dies via an AI Fal'Cie. Then you meet this Farseer Yule. I mean, you might have met her a couple times already. There's a couple Yules. Yule is a Farseer. Farseers have the ability to see the future. They are blessed by the goddess Etro. She has the eyes of Etro, and that's what lets her see the future. Noel and Sarah's goal right now is to just kill the Proto-Fal'Cie and try to ensure that that doesn't happen, thus changing the future. When they change the future, Yule dies. That is the curse of the Farseer. When they see a future, and then that future gets changed, they die. She dies in Caius's arms, and this is not the first time this has happened, according to Caius. He states, why do I have to be cursed with seeing this so often? And you learn a little bit more that Caius is on a quest to save Yule. And you are directly opposing him because you are actively changing time a lot. Yule has the eyes of Etro. Caius has the heart of Etro, which is a heart of chaos, which gives him immense power and the ability to travel through time. Caius's goal is to kill history. I'm not joking, that is a line he says. He says he will literally kill history. He will destroy the past. He's a little bit insane, but all he wants to do is protect this girl who means so much to him. So when we change the future, we kill Yule, and Noel keeps trying to remember, I know I'm connected with Yule. I know I'm connected with Caius. I've seen these people in my time before. I know that. But why can't I remember what we did together? That's because we're changing the future. We are changing what happened, and Noel's memory is like failing him now. So we got memory changing and time travel in the same game. So anyway, you kill the Proto-Fal'Cie who's causing all this trouble, and you shout to Hope in the past, hey, Hope! We told you to figure out how to levitate Cocoon again, not invent God. So, you go to the past. He changes his plan. Jump back to the future. The new plan is basically to make a whole new Cocoon. Like, just make a new Cocoon. F the old one, it's gonna fall. Make a new one, put all the humans on that. And you jump again to the year 400, and it's a utopia now. It's a bright, shiny, flying cars future. Everybody's cool, everybody's having a good time, and Hope is kind of running things around here. Wait, Hope is running things in the year 400. How'd he get there? He invented time capsules. Yeah, so I guess I forgot to mention that only Sarah and Noel really have the ability because they were entrusted by Etro and Lightning, so only they can travel through time. Hope and nobody else in the story really could, except that Hope invented time capsules. He just explains that, like, yeah, off screen I invented time capsules, and also they brought me right to where I needed to be, and also they broke as soon as we used them, so we can't go back in the past. They only work in the future, and they broke, so we can't use them again. Okay, sure. Point is, he needed to be here in the story, and they just made up some whatever. Work on the brand new Cocoon is almost done. We just need a couple of Gravitron cores. We can't get the Gravitron cores because they don't exist. Oops. Well, they don't exist in this timeline. Somehow, Hope does not have the ability to extract them from other times, but he does have a device that knows exactly what year a Gravitron core exists. Again, this is all just stupid nonsense in order to have the game work as intended. It's basically a Wind Waker Triforce Pieces quest, where you have to go back through other levels and try to find these Gravitron cores based on some clues. And you do it. It's not too crazy. Kind of used a guide for that, but anyway, you give Hope all the cores he needs, and Alyssa gives you a fragment. You use this fragment to activate a gate, and then you end up in the Void. The Void Beyond, you kind of get lost and split up. Sarah and Noel split up, and they get into this trippy third act sequence where their dreams are blending with reality and they don't know what's real. I'll skip over most of it. Sarah wakes up and she's like married to Snow already, and Lightning is there, and she's like, come with me, Sarah, we can be happy. And you have to choose like whether or not to do it. You do learn something important via Yule, who is the only real person actually talking to you and trying to help you. Yule tells you that it was Etro who saved you at the end of 13. Now this is a big thing. The ending of 13 is pretty definitive. I think most people would agree you didn't need a sequel, but there was one thing. They defied their fate. They figured out a loophole. They completed their focus. Problem is, when you fulfill your focus, you're supposed to turn to crystal. That was always the problem of the game. Like, you're doomed if you do, doomed if you don't. And they do all become crystals at the end for like 2 seconds, and then they just magically come back. And that wasn't explained. That's the one thing. That's the one thing they didn't tell us. The one thing that makes you question the ending, like, they kind of cheated. Turns out, the goddess Etro willed them to come out of the crystal because she knew that all these characters could help her. Doing this broke some law of the nature of what goddesses are allowed to do, and it messed up time. And this is what caused a split. That one timeline had lightning survive, like we saw in the actual ending of the game, and the other was the one where lightning didn't exist, and that's what ended up happening. That's why Sarah had vague memories of lightning being there when she wasn't, because she was taken away and the timeline changed. That's how it happened, and that's also how they explained how they definitely cheated at the ending of 13. Noel's side of things, we figure out his whole history with Caius and Yule. They're all part of the same tribe. Humans did degrade into like a tribalistic manner towards the end there. They just kind of devolved. Caius was the guardian entrusted by Etro to save the Farseers like Yule. Noel was just a guy, but he was training under Caius to become the next guardian. Little did he know that in order to become the next guardian, you have to kill the current guardian. And Caius wants Noel to kill him, because killing him would set Chaos free, basically, because he has the heart of Chaos, Etro's heart. And that causes chaos. Are you following me? Sarah also gets kind of gifted with the Farseer ability a little bit. She kind of sees some futures. She's able to kind of predict what happens. And this is bad, because if she has that power, that means she's at risk of death if they change the future. So again, it's kind of a doomed if you do, doomed if you don't thing again. When you die, you go through the gate. This gate that is basically a passage of like the human world onto the afterlife world. And they do explain what the Falsies' goals were in 13 that wasn't very explicitly explained in that game. They wanted to kill Cocoon because all of the souls dying at once, that massive sacrifice, would break the gate to Valhalla, causing chaos to overflow and infect everything and summon like the true god or something like that. That was what the Falsies were actually trying to do. Kind of would have been nice to really know that playing that game, but it is basically the same thing that Caius wants to do, just in a different way. Instead of sacrificing all the people and destroying the gate, he wants to just kill his heart so that chaos would overflow and Valhalla would take over the world and time would stop. That's the key. He wants time to stop. That is the only way to save Yule. He literally does want to kill time. Soon enough, you get to final boss time. Noel and Sarah are together to fight chaos to stop this maniac from trying to kill the concept of time. Caius is manipulating them, though. He's good at this. He says he's killed the lightning, and it's already over for them. And you just gotta be like, is he lying? Did he kill lightning off screen? I mean, lightning's not really in this game at all. You fight him, and then you get this choice, one of those dialogue options I was talking about. You can choose to kill him or not. Now, I don't know what happens if you choose to kill him, but I definitely said no because that sounds like a bad idea. I don't think it mattered, because I chose to show mercy and he forces Noel to kill him with his sword. Once again, tying into that idea that, can fate be broken? Can we have free will? Can we do what we want? Because Caius is seemingly figuring everything out. But killing Chaos was kind of the final paradox that needed to be fixed. He's not messing with the timelines anymore, so we're kind of seeing it as a W for now. Caius is gone. The new cocoon that Hope invented is working. Everybody's evacuated. It's time for Cocoon to fall. What's the last thing? Oh, yeah, Vanille and Fang are still in there. We don't really want them to just get crushed or something. So Saz comes in. Literally, Saz appears for like this one scene in this game. He comes in there with his ship, with Dodge, in the back seat. They come in and they extract Fang and Vanille and they get off free, and we watch Cocoon fall as the new Cocoon rises. Humanity's safe. We did it. Whew. Jeez, that was a wild ride. But we're good. And then Sarah dies. Literally everything is fine, and then Sarah just collapses and dies. And Noel's like freaking out because she had the Farseer ability. She saw the future. We just changed it. We changed it to the good ending, which killed Sarah. And there's no cheating. There was no cheating this time. They didn't, like in the end of 13, they didn't just magically stop being a crystal. She didn't just magically come back to life. She just dies. But at least humanity's safe? Nope. Remember, killing Caius destroyed the heart of chaos and unleashed chaos into land. A big portal comes up and just starts overflowing with death and destruction all over the world. And everyone's looking up like, what happened? We failed. It's over. No, to be continued. They did an infinity war. It also shows Lightning sitting on this crystal throne, all crystallized herself. I guess Caius wasn't lying. He really stopped her? He stopped Lightning? So everybody's like dead now? Geez, I wonder if Lightning might return. And then if you collect all the fragments, you can get this secret additional ending, which is literally just Caius gloating, almost talking directly to the player. Like, yeah, the goddess is dead, Lightning is dead, Sarah is dead, I won. Like, he's just like showing off, like, I planted all these seeds, I figured it all out, I won, F you, the end. What an ending. Is this the first cliffhanger ending in Final Fantasy history? I think it is. This franchise has a very strange relationship with sequels. There should be more longer, interconnected stories. I find that very enjoyable. Some people don't. Some people really don't. Some people would see this to be continued and get like so angry. I find it fun. I find this story fun. I mean, the only issues I really have with it is that it underutilizes the 13 cast. Dude, Lightning is on the cover of this game. That's crap. She's like not in this. Put Sarah and Noel on the cover. They're the main characters, which by the way, I really, really enjoyed them. I also love when a story is focused on less characters because it's always better. It's always, the characters are better, right? I explained that 13 has this Game of Thrones problem where they're all split off in their little subgroups and they don't really interact with each other that much throughout the whole thing. This game, it's about Sarah and Noel, and that's the whole thing. There's not even a third party member. That's where the monsters come in. They're not characters, they're not part of the story. I had a blast with these guys, and I usually don't like when they add a bunch of new characters in a sequel and make it about them, but Noel was great. I liked him a lot. Caius was like a good villain. He's silly because his saying I want to kill time is so silly, but he was still, he freaking won. How many Final Fantasy villains just win? For now, I guess. Anyways, it's time to move on. You may have noticed there's still a bit more to cover. This game has DLC. Buying all the DLC would cost about as much as the game costed on launch, unfortunately. But on the Steam version, the DLC is all included in the game, so there's a benefit there. You don't have to buy anything, it's all in there. Well, except for like some cross-promotional stuff, like an Ezio costume for Noel. There was a Mass Effect N7 armor for Sarah, like it's crazy. The other costumes are in, you can dress them up in like white mage and black mage costumes. You can spend the whole game in a bikini. Some of you people will probably do that. But the meat of the DLC is these little episodes they added after. Saz is the first one. Yeah, Saz gets an episode, but hold your horses, it's not really a big deal. It's basically a casino DLC. There is a casino in the game, and this DLC just kind of makes a little bit of a story out of it. Somehow he gets caught in this time freeze, and to get his son back, he has to gamble enough money, and it's so pointless. Who cares about the story? He's got to get his son back, and to do that, he's got to gamble. This is literally just poker. You just have to play poker. I mean, hey, I'm down for a couple games of poker. Final Fantasy IX had blackjack, 13-2 has poker, and a new game called Chrono Bind, which is like, I'm not going to explain the rules. There's this clock that's turning, and every card they play adds money onto that number of the clock, and if you play the highest card, you can move the clock, and if you end on a coin stack, you can get the coin stack, but if you flip around on the clock, it charges and puts more coins on more stacks. I don't know. I got addicted to that game, to be honest. I stopped playing poker and just went to that and kept playing it. I put a lot of time into this DLC for no reason, and at the end of the story, you get your son back. I think it gives you it gives Saz the motivation to help the team out and like extract Vanille and Fang, because it takes place before all that. Sure, it's kind of pointless, but it was fun. Second DLC is about Snow, and he ends up in the Coliseum. There's another Coliseum area that you can access in the game. We discovered he jumps through time accidentally, and he has no control over it. He ends up in the Coliseum. That's just how it happens. The fun gimmick with this is that you are fighting classic characters in Final Fantasy, and you know who's gonna show up here. It's Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh, now with guns. Yeah, all his arms are shooting guns now instead of swords, which is funny. He also completely breaks the fourth wall and thanks you for downloading the DLC, because otherwise he would be, quote, stuck in digital limbo. So I guess that's a new element to Gilgamesh. He knows he's in a game now. I don't know how I feel about that. I liked when he was just dumping through just like rifts in space-time. But you could also fight Ultros from 6 in 3D. That's pretty cool. And Poo Poo from 8. Yeah, the little alien guys from like one side quest in 8. That was fun. Hey, it's fun. I couldn't beat any of these guys. They're super strong, and they like require you to beat the game and 100% everything first, I think, because they're like super bosses. Fun to try though. You can fight Jill Nabat. Remember the lady from 13 who looked like she was going to be more important than she was? Yeah, well, you can fight her. And then Snow is the final boss, so you get some closure to where he is, I guess. The third and final story is Lightning's story. Like I said, not really in this game outside of like the beginning and ending cutscenes a little bit. She sees Sarah die at the end. This takes place more towards the ending. And this whole DLC is a 1v1 fight with Caius. Remember when Caius said he killed Lightning? We're gonna see that battle and exactly how it played out. He is a super boss, but again, you play as Lightning, so it's actually a new form of combat. You play as her in this goddessy knight role, where she has super powered versions of all the roles in the other games with OP abilities, but Caius is also OP, so it balances out. And you start off, it's almost impossible because you're level 1, but every time you fight, you get a little closer because your level increases and you get to a max of 10, and every time you level up, you earn new abilities and you get access to new things, and the fight gets a little bit easier. It was really fun. Only when you beat Caius while under a certain time limit will you get access to the second phase of the fight, where it's like a big Bahamut boss, and you gotta beat him too, and then that gets easier and easier as you level up. It was fun. It was also repetitive because literally all you could do in this DLC is repeat the fight. But I enjoyed it enough to actually manage to beat him, and it does make you feel strong, because you're leveling up, but really you're training in learning how to fight this boss. Like if you took levels out of it, it would work the same way. Like I'm just trying to beat him. I'm just learning his patterns and learning what to do. Sentinel is actually important in this. Saboteur is actually important, so is Synergist. The roles matter again. Oh, I was so happy. I was like, damn, could this be the gameplay? Is this the gameplay of Lightning Returns? That'd be hype. I enjoyed it really a lot. And then the ending gives you some more context. You hear from Yule, who talks to Lightning, saying that it was all Lightning's fault. She set Sarah on this quest that ended up killing Sarah. But that's not even a big deal in the grand scheme of things, because chaos is unleashed on the world now and everything's terrible. And it's all your fault, Lightning. And then for atonement, and for the sake of keeping Sarah's memory alive, as she's maybe one of the last people to remember her, she sits on the throne, becomes crystallized, and basically concedes to Caius. And that's the end. That's the actual end of the game. So Caius wasn't lying. He really did beat everybody. Good thing we're done with the story now. There's another book. Final Fantasy XIII-2 Fragments After is a book meant to be read after you beat the game. But you'd assume it takes place after the game. It doesn't. In fact, all of the stories in this book take place before or during the events of 13-2. They just kind of spoil a couple things, so that's why they separated these. But man, yeah. 2 whole books for one game, a sequel game no less. Well, let's dive in. These stories are a little more interesting than before because now we have all the context of the game. The first chapter is about Lightning and her journey coming to Valhalla. She meets this Moogle guy. Remember I said we'd explain him. The world of Valhalla exists of like a lot of lost souls, and the way things work is that the weak follow the strong. If you best someone in battle, they are like obligated to serve under you. So the Moogle serves under Lightning because she's stronger, and then eventually Lightning, when she gains her powers, she offs Moogle to Sarah to help her out, and Moogle's got to do it because he's serving Lightning. We learn about the father god Bunevelze, I think it's pronounced, who kind of birthed the fal'Cie. 3 main fal'Cie were birthed: Lindsay, Pulse, and Etro. Lindsay and Pulse serve their roles birthing more fal'Cie, spreading the fal'Cie, but Etro couldn't. She was just there to watch with her eyes. To show her father, technically the father god, that she could create on her own, she started hurting herself, like injuring herself. But she didn't possess human emotions, so she didn't know why she was acting so self-destructive, and then she bled to death one day. Her father hated her because she looked so much like her mother, Muin, another god, the mother god. So she created a human in her own image that I believe is Yule, and she is resurrected over and over, only to die over and over because Etro keeps doing it. And then here comes Caius, who is technically commanded by the gods in a fal'Cie l'Cie sort of fashion, commanded to be the protector of Yule. See, Etro is a tragic figure who is a little bit going against the gods and the fal'Cie, serving humans. She loves humanity, and she doesn't see them as little specks, playthings, you know? She wants to protect them. She even gave her life to do it. So when she encounters Lightning in Valhalla, she gives her the blessing of the goddess, gives her this paladin armor that we see on the cover of the game, and Lightning becomes the protector of Etro, and gains all this knowledge of time and stuff. Jeez, this is so different from 13. So that's a lot of important explanation. Chapter 2 is about Snow. Snow and his little buddy Cactuar end up falling through a rift in time and accidentally... It basically explains why he's scrambled all over the place in 13-2. Eventually, he's shown Sarah's death, presumably the one at the end of the game. Now, you know Snow, he would do literally anything to save Sarah from literally anything. So he actually tells his buddy Cactuar to make him a l'Cie. This is why we see his l'Cie mark in the game, because he actually gives in, and the fal'Cie Cactuar that we read about in the other book brands him. His focus? To save Sarah. Now Lightning brings him in. I told you this earlier. She was the one who commanded Snow to go to this period of time and kill the Flan, because the Flan would have melted the cocoon tower. While she's ordering him, she realizes he's become a l'Cie and basically calls him a moron for that. Snow, you're such an idiot. You only think with your fists. You never use your head. Yada yada yada. Anyway, do my bidding. Go kill the Flan. And then, of course, in the game, we do kill the Flan, and this book picks up again. After that, he ends up in this Colosseum, which I believe is just starting the DLC that we just talked about. Chapter 3 is about Hope, and this takes place a little while after we went back in time the second time to tell Hope to not make a proto-fal'Cie, because that's bad. So we're living in an almost utopia society where Hope is and Alyssa, those two are working together to research, and Alyssa gets captured and hid up in a tower, one of the research towers that they use. He's trying to figure out who's behind this. It seems like another worldly being is doing this, otherwise there's like no explanation. He finds data on himself that he's been being tracked this whole time. Someone's been watching Hope, and now they've kidnapped Alyssa? What's going on? And I'm skipping through most of what happens, but he finds out that no one's captured Alyssa. Alyssa's evil. She's led him on in this, and she plans to kill him. Alyssa exists because of a paradox, and she is trying to ensure that the paradox stays existing, because if that paradox gets fixed, she will be erased from time. And she knows Hope is a key figure in stopping the paradoxes, so she's trying to kill him. She also tried to kill Noel and Sarah. This, again, none of this stuff is covered in the game. this research assistant girl who's hanging out with Hope is just evil. And you don't know. You spend a lot of the game talking with her. In the end, when you give Hope the Gravitron cores and stuff, and you get the fragment to go to the future, you end up in this hopeless void at the end where Sarah and Noel get these visions and start going insane because Alyssa deliberately gave you a bad fragment that Caius gave her. Like, she's working with the main villain of the game behind the scenes, and it's only described in this book. Like, this is crazy. But the events of this story overlap with the ending of the game. As Alyssa's about to pull the trigger, she starts like fading away and disappearing because Noel and Sarah kill Caius, defeat the last paradox. The timeline is fixed, therefore Alyssa stops existing. And the chapter ends with a new assistant approaching Hope. And then they're just discussing like a normal day, and like he's totally forgotten that this person, Alyssa, has ever existed. She is wiped from the timeline. She's gone. So that was a big, weird, emotional story that's, again, only in the book. And then the last chapter, once again, is focused on Noel. It goes into a little more detail about the tribe dynamic and the way Caius was kind of hated by everybody for his arrogance, even though he was so strong and was only trying to protect Yule. It just explains things a little bit more. Honestly, I planted some of the information from this book in my story explanation to make it a little more easier for you guys to understand. So playing the game is a little more confusing. It's just where you find out like Caius and Yule's powers are born from Etro, which is chaos. So he has the heart of chaos. She has the eyes of chaos. This is where we find all that out. But this chapter also doubles down that Caius might be crazy, but he is literally, his only motivation is just to save this girl. He's trying to just make it so that she can live. It's like the trolley problem, but it's like, I will literally kill all of humanity on this side to save the one girl from eternal suffering. I mean, she keeps getting resurrected and dying. It's pretty awful. And he says, according to him, it's worth killing everything to save her. And that's just like I don't know. I thought Caius was a cool villain for that. Like his motivation is so clear, but he is so insane and unstoppable. Like, he's great. I loved him. And the book ends with a little coda. They call it a coda, just a brief end, a couple of things. And I believe it doesn't explain it explicitly, but I think it's from Yule at the very end of the game. I'm just gonna read it. She says, I didn't want to see anything. I never wanted it, not even once. I have to stop these two. There's so little I can do, but I must not let them go. Please answer. Hear my voice. You must not go ahead. You must not fight him. You must not kill him. Everything will break. If you fight, you'll suffer too. If time changes, you'll be hurt too. All I know is what awaits after that battle is regret and despair, endless darkness. Save me, save me, save us. Can you do it? Can I trust in the two of you? I don't want to see any more, not any more mourning or sadness or death or the end of the world. So, and it ends on that. So that's probably Yule trying to stop Noel and Sarah from killing Caius and unleashing eternal darkness. They didn't hear that one. That message didn't come through, Yule, because that's exactly what happened. Yikes. Man, why this video is going to be as long as 13 at this rate. Oh, geez, let's jump into the conclusion. Let's really end this. There's no more extra bits. This is the end. You know, I'm usually not incredibly conclusive in the conclusion section, but this is a pretty rare case where my opinions on this game are very cut and dry. Gameplay-wise, everything they changed outside of combat, great. Everything they changed about the combat, not great. I am baffled by the way roles were nerfed. I don't know why the character upgrading system is so straightforward, like you have to kind of do it one way. And in just my personal opinion, I don't like monster raising stuff and didn't enjoy that aspect of it. But it didn't mean I didn't have fun beating bosses and stuff just like 13. I think the story is pretty cool. It's about your tolerance level for nonsense. Brought it up before. I'm a Kingdom Hearts fan. So, yes, there's a lot of pretty stupid stuff that doesn't have a good enough explanation. No, Final Fantasy XIII didn't need a sequel to continue any part of the story, except for that little bit about the crystallization thing. But it is an off-the-rails, wacky time travel adventure, and I like that. I have fun with that. I loved getting to know Sarah. She's really not much of a character in the first game. She's a good character, and Noel, I surprisingly loved just as much. He's a great addition. They're a great pair. This game even got me to like Hope. Like his journey, his story of throwing a life away to one-way time travel to the future to save humanity. Like, geez, he puts everything on the line. You don't play as him, but he's in the background doing a lot of the work, really. And that crazy ending, icing on the cake for me. I mean, you know what you're getting into when you hear it's a time travel story with weird made-up rules. You can kind of draw if you're going to enjoy this or not immediately. 13 did have a lot of made-up rules itself, so if you didn't enjoy that story, this one will not sway you. Which is ironic because gameplay-wise, I think it directly addresses the people who hated the gameplay of 13. My main story criticism is that it does that sequel cliche where the focus is entirely on these new characters who were not at all in the last game, and the older characters are a little bit swept aside. That usually annoys me, but again, like I said, I liked Noel and Caius so much that I was kind of okay with it. But Lightning is only involved because she becomes this all-seeing goddess protector for no reason. Like, of all the things in this game, the least explained is just like Lightning falls through Time Rift and then meets Etro and now she's a knight. And you don't even really see any of it unless you read the books. Saz may as well not be in the game. Vanille and Fang have reasons for not being in, they obviously are busy being asleep. Worst of all, why was Snow so underutilized? He's the only character who didn't really have an excuse. He just kind of started falling through time for no reason again, and he disappears at some point, and then you don't see him again. What's the deal? I think they just didn't want you to play with Snow in the party, and they just tried to make up an excuse for why he doesn't really participate. That felt lame. Also, where the heck was his Cactuar friend that he made? He's like an important character in both these books, and everything in these books is very relevant to the games, except for that. The Cactuar just doesn't exist in the game. What's up with that? That feels like they planned on something and then it didn't follow through. But yeah, I didn't enjoy the monster collecting part. Would have rather had a human character. Would have been fine if it was just Sarah, Noel, and Snow. It's particularly funny because Sarah and Snow are this madly in love, engaged couple, and now there have been 2 life-changing, crazy sci-fi adventures that the both of them went on, almost completely separated from each other. They're like new people. But, they're still getting married, they're still in love. Like, they don't even know each other anymore, man. And not everybody agrees with me on the combat. A lot of people think 13-2 has better combat than the first game, and better character development. Some people think the entire package overall, 13-2 is a better game than 13. I liked this game. I had a lot of fun with it. I would absolutely sooner replay it than I would replay the first game, because the first game is such a straight line that it would be like the exact same thing, and it's so long, I'm never gonna feel the need to replay that. But this one, I could go back, do the side quests, there's so many, collect all the fragments, see the paradox endings, there's like special weird endings you can get. So replay value is better, exploration is better. I still think 13 is a better game. And this one's so much cheaper too. You notice the lack of budget when you play these games so close together. Basically, if you were on board for the story of 13, but you couldn't get through it because of the linearity or the combat was just lame or it was boring outside of Grand Pulse, then you maybe should check out this one. If you didn't like anything about 13, this game ain't gonna change your mind. Forget the 13 franchise. This one's not for you. Give up on it. Play another Final Fantasy. That said, I didn't know what to think at the end of 13 in terms of looking forward to a sequel. I didn't really have any expectations, but now given everything that happened in the story and stuff, I'm excited to see how this wacky trilogy ends. what the heck is 13 Lightning Returns gonna be? How is Lightning gonna return, by the way? We'll find out soon, but not next time. Next time on REFFOID, we're jumping from one mainline franchise to another. We just talked about 14 in the last video. It's not 13 again. And it's not 15 yet. We're going back a little. We're going to talk about another mainline sub-franchise. It might not be in the way you expect. You'll just have to wait and see next time. Finally! I'm you from the future. Remember me? From the other episodes? Well, I finally did it. I planted the last seed needed to correct the past. Cause I'm from the future where you don't do all the Final Fantasies and you fail the mission. But those 2 books, Before Fragments and After Fragments.
It's called Fragments Before and
Those were the last, I missed those. But now that you did them, the past is corrected. And I can return to being a normal person again. Yes!